भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्ठिकी. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, today we're starting new chapter, chapter 6, the downfall of Shobhari Muni. Text number 1 onwards. Shri Shukuvacha Virupa Ketum Achambho Ambarish Sutastryaha Virupat Prishadashvo Abhuta Tatputrastu Rathitaraha. Shukdev Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, Ambarish had 3 sons named Virupa, Ketuman and Shambhu. From Virupa came a son named Prishadashva, and from Prishadashva came a son named Rathitara. Rathitarasya prajasya bharyayam tantve artita angira janya masa brahma varchasvinah sutan. Rathitara had no sons, and therefore he requested the great sage Angira to beget sons for him. Because of this request, Angira begot sons in the womb of Rathitara's wife. All these sons were born with Brahminical prowess. In the Vedic age, a man was sometimes called upon to beget sons in the womb of a lesser man's wife for the sake of better progeny. In such an instance, the woman is compared to an agricultural field. A person possessing an agricultural field may employ another person to produce food grains from it, but because the grains were produced from the land, they were considered the property of the owner of the land. Similarly, a woman was sometimes allowed to be impregnated by someone other than her husband, but the sons born of her would then become her husband's sons. Such sons were called Kshetra Jata. Kshetra Jata. Okay. Because Rathitara had no sons, he took advantage of this method. Just like what else? Vedvyasi. He begot sons in the wombs of Ambika, Ambalika, and Ambika and Ambalika. Not Amba. Ambika, Ambalika, and the maid serpent. Ete kshetra prasuta vai punastwangirasa smrita rathitaranam pravaraha kshetro peta dujataya. Having been born from the womb of Rathitara's wife, all these sons were known as the dynasty of Rathitara. But because they were born from the semen of Angira, they were also known as the dynasty of Angira. Among all the progeny of Rathitara, these sons were the most prominent because owing to their birth, they were considered Brahmins. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the meaning of Sandvi Jataya as mixed caste, indicating a mixture of Brahman and Kshatriya. Kshutastu manurjagye ikshvakur granatah sutah tasya putra shat jeshtha vikukshi nimidandaka. The son of Manu was Ikshvaku. When Manu was sneezing, Ikshvaku was born from Manu's nostrils. King Ikshvaku had 100 sons, of whom Vikukshi, Nimi, and Dandaka were the most prominent. According to Sridhar Swami, although the Bhagavatam has previously included Ikshvaku among the 10 sons begotten by Manu and his wife Shuddha, this was a generalization. It is here specifically explained that Ikshvaku was born simply from the sneezing of Manu. Wow. Tesham purastad bhavan naryavarte nripa nripa panchvinshati panch paschatcha treyo madhye apare anyatah. Of the 100 sons, 25 became kings in the western side of Aryavarta, a place between the Himalaya and Vindhya mountains. Another 25 sons became kings in the east of the east of Aryavata. And the three principal sons became kings in the middle. The other sons became kings in various other places. So ekadashtka shraddhe Ikshvaku sutamādishat mansamani yata medyam vikukshe gachma chiram. During the months of January, February, and March, oblations offered to the forefathers are called Ashtaka Shraddha. Ashtaka Shraddha. The Shraddha ceremony is held during the dark fortnight of the month. When Maharaj Ikshvaku was performing his oblations in this ceremony, he ordered his son Vikukshi to go immediately to the forest to bring some pure flesh. Tatheti sa vanam gatva mrigan hatva kriyata haran shranto bubhukshito viraha shasham chadad pasmriti. Thereafter, Ikshvaku's son Vikukshi went to the forest and killed many animals suitable for being offered as oblations. But when fatigued and hungry, he became forgetful and ate a rabbit he had killed. It is evident that Kshatriyas killed animals in the forest because the flesh of the animals was suitable to be offered at a particular type of yajna. So not every yajna can offer the flesh. Offering oblations to the forefathers in the ceremony known as Shraddha is also a kind of yajna. In this yajna, flesh obtained from the forest by hunting could be offered. However, in the present age, Kali Yuga, this kind of offering is forbidden. Quoting from Brahmavaivarta Purana, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Ashwamedham Gavalambam. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden. The offering of a horse in sacrifice, offering of a cow in sacrifice, acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. The word Pal Patrikam refers to an offering of flesh in oblations to forefathers. Formerly, such an offering was allowed, but in this age it is forbidden. In this age, Kali Yuga, everyone is expert in hunting animals. But most of the people are Shudras, not Kshatriyas. According to Vedic injunctions, however, only Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt, whereas Shudras are allowed to eat flesh after offering goats or other insignificant animals before the deity of goddess Kali or similar demigods. On the whole, meat eating is not completely forbidden. A particular class of men is allowed to eat meat according to various circumstances and injunctions. As far as eating beef is concerned, however, it is strictly prohibited to everyone. Thus, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna personally speaks of Goraksham, cow protection. Meat eaters, according to their different positions and the directions of the Shastra, are allowed to eat flesh, but never the flesh of cows. Cows must be given all protection. So different injunctions are there, different restrictions are there. As Prabhupada explains, only Shudras are allowed to eat meat, and that too of goats or other insignificant animals like chicken they could eat. But before that, they had to offer the meat to goddess Kali. Shesham nivedyamasa pitre tena chatad guru choditah te prokshanayama yaha dushtam etad akarmakam. Vikukshi offered the remnants of the flesh to King Ikshvaku, who gave it to Vasishtha for purification. But Vasishtha could immediately understand that part of the flesh had already been taken by Vikukshi, and therefore he said that it was unfit to be used in the Shraddha ceremony. That which is meant to be offered in yajna cannot be tasted by anyone before being offered to the deity. In our temple, this regulation is in effect. One cannot eat food from the kitchen unless it is offered to the deity. If something is taken before being offered to the deity, the entire preparation is polluted and can no longer be offered. Those engaged in deity worship must know this well, so that they may be saved from committing offenses in deity worship. So deity worship in the temples has to be very, very much regulated, and all the procedures should be all followed properly. for the pleasure of the deities. In fact, there is a story that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was only a little boy, I don't know, is 3 or 5, either 3 years old or 5 years. So what had happened in his house, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had brought some mangoes. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ate a mango without offering it to the deities. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he told Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, although at that time his name was Bimla Prasad, and we should not eat anything which is not offered to the deities. So Bimla Prasad, at that time, at that young age, he was very much ashamed of what he did, and he took a vow that he will never eat mangoes again, offered or not offered. And he kept that vow till he left his body. His disciples would bring him mangoes, but he would not even touch. He would say, I am an offender and I cannot eat these mangoes. In fact, once he was traveling in a train and his disciples offered him mangoes, or some visitors brought him mangoes, and he just kept the whole basket of mangoes. He did not eat. And the basket and the train ride was for a few days or something, and the mangoes were getting rotten. And Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj would not eat, and then his disciples could not eat. But in that train ride, there were some Mayavadis who were traveling, and they started arguing with Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj on some philosophical point. And Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj told his disciples to bring those rotten mangoes, and they did. And Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj offered those rotten mangoes to those philosophers who were discussing Mayavadi philosophy. Maharaj himself did not eat those mangoes. And when those philosophers, they ate those rotten mangoes, they got convinced of Vaishnava philosophy. He was such a powerful person that just by feeding them rotten mangoes, he could change their heart. But he himself never ate mangoes. He would eat chutney made out of green mangoes, but he never ate the mangoes otherwise. How strict. Gyatva putrasya tatkarma guruna abhihitam nripa deshanni saryamasa sutam tyakta vidhim drusha. When King Ikshvaku, thus informed by Vashishta, understood what his son Vikukshi had done, he was extremely angry. Thus he ordered Vikukshi to leave the country because Vikukshi had violated the regulative principles. So this regulative principles, it doesn't mean the 4 regulative principles we try to follow. The regulative principle was he contaminated the yajna, the offering of the yajna. Satu viprena sambadam gyapakena samacharan tyaktva kalevaram yogi satena vapayat param. Having been instructed by the great and learned Brahman Vashishta who discoursed about the absolute truth, Maharaj Ikshvaku became renounced. By following the principles for a yogi, he certainly achieved the supreme perfection after giving up his material body. Pitaryu parate abhyetya vikukshi prithvi mimam shasiddhi harim yagya shashada iti vishruta. After his father's disappearance, Vikukshi returned to the country and thus became the king, ruling the planet Earth and performing various sacrifices to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vikukshi later became celebrated as Sashad. Sashad means the eater of rabbit. Puranjasya tasya sutta indravaha iti rita kakutastha iti chapyuktaha shrinu namani karmabhi. The sons of Sashad were Puranjaya, who is also known as Indrava and sometimes as Kakutstha. Please hear from me how he received different names for different activities. कृतान्तासीत समरो देवानां सहदानवः पार्श्वनिग्रहो वृतो वीरो देवैर्दैत्यपराजितः. Formerly, there was a devastating war between the demigods and the demons. The demigods haven't been defeated, accepted Puranjaya as his assistant, and then conquered the demons. Therefore, this hero is known as Puranjaya, he who conquered the residents of the demons. Vachanad deva devasya Vishnur Vishvatmanah Prabhu Vahanatve Vratastasya Bahuvendro Mahavrishah. Puranjaya agreed to kill all the demons on the condition that Indra would be his carrier. Because of pride, Indra could not accept this proposal, but later, by the order of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, Indra did accept it and became a great bull carrier for Puranjaya. Wow. Sasannadho dhanur divyam adaya vishikhanchitam stuyamanastamaruyya yuyutsu kakudistitah. Tejasapi Syapyayito Vishnu Purushasya Mahatmana Pratichayam Dishi Daityanam Neyarunat Tridasha Puram. Well protected by armor and desiring to fight, Puranjaya took up transcendental bow and very sharp arrows, and while being highly praised by the demigods, he got up on the back of the bull or Indra and sat on its hump. Thus he is known as Kakutstha. Being empowered by Lord Vishnu, who is the super soul and the supreme person, Puranjaya sat on the great bull and is therefore known as Indrava. Surrounded by the demigods, he attacked the residents of the demons in the west. Tasya chabhut pradhanam tumulam loma harshanam yamaya bhallar neyaddatyan abhiyuyur mridhe. There was a fierce battle between the demons and Puranjaya. Indeed, it was so fierce that when one hears about it, one's hairs stand on end. All the demons bold enough to come before Puranjaya were immediately sent to the residence of Yamaraj by his arrows. Tasyeshu patabhimukham yugandagnim ivol balam visrijya dadruvur daitya hanyamana samale. To save themselves from the blazing arrows of Indrava, which resembled the flames of devastation at the end of the millennium, the demons who remained when the rest of their army was killed fled very quickly to their respective homes. Jitva param dhanam sarvam sastrikam vajrapanae pratyachan sarajarsher iti nama abhirahrita. After conquering the enemy, the saintly King Puranjaya gave everything, including the enemy's riches and wives, to Indra, who carries a thunderbolt. For this, he is celebrated as Puranjaya. Thus, Puranjaya is known by different names because of his different activities. Puranjayasya putro abhudane nastatsutah prithu vishwagandhis tataschandro Yuvanashvastu Tatsutaha. The son of Puranjaya was known as Anena. Anena's son was Prithu, and Prithu's son was Vishwagandhi. Vishwagandhi's son was Chandra, and Chandra's son was Yuvanashva. Shravastas Tatsuto Yena Shravasti Niramame Puri Vridhashvastu Shravistas Tada Kuvalyashvakaha. The son of Yuvanashva was Shravasta, who constructed a township known as Shravastipuri. The son of Shravasta was Brihdashva, and his son was Kuvalayashva. In this way, the dynasty increased. Yah priyartham utankasya dhundu nama surambali sudanameka vinshatya sahasra era anad vritaha. To satisfy the sage Utanka, the great powerful Kavalyashva killed the demon named Dhundu. He did this with the assistance of his 21,000 sons. 21,000 sons. Dhundu Mariti Khyatas Tatsuta Satte Jajvaluhu धुन्धुर्मुखाग्निना सर्वे त्रय एवावशेषितः दृढाश्वः कपिलाश्वश्च भद्राश्व इति भारत दृढाश्व पुत्रो हर्यश्व निकुंभस्तत्सुतः स्मृतः. O Maharaj Parikshit, for this reason Kuvalyashva is celebrated as Dhundumar, the killer of Dhundu. All but 3 of his sons, however, were burnt to ashes by the fire emanating from Dhundu's mouth. The remaining sons were Dridhashva, Kapilashva and Bhadrashva. From Dridhashva came a son named Haryashva, whose son is celebrated as Nikumbha. Bahulashva Nikumbhasya Krishashva Athasya Senajit Yuvanashva Bhavat Tasya So Anpatyo Vanam Gataha. The son of Nikumbha was Bahulashva, the son of Bahulashva was Krishashva, the son of Krishashva was Senajit, and the son of Senajit was Yuvanashva. Yuvanashva had no sons, and thus he retired from family life and went to the forest. Bharya Shatina Nirvinna Rishyasya Kripalavaha Ishtihi Ishtim Smo Vartayam Chakro Rendrim Tesu Samahita. Although Yuvanashva went into the forest with his 100 wives, all of them were very morose. The sages in the forest, however, being very kind to the king, began very carefully and attentively performing an Indra Yagya so that king might have his son. One may enter the Vanpras order of life with his wife, but the Vanpras order means complete retirement from household life. Although King Yuvanashva retired from family life, he and his wives were always morose because he had no son. Raja tadyagya sadanam pravishto nishitarshitaha drishtva shayanan viparan stan papo mantra jalam swayam. Being thirsty one night, the king entered the arena of sacrifice, and when he saw all the Brahmins lying down, he personally drank the sanctified water meant to be drunk by his wife. Yagyas performed by Brahmins according to Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are so potent that the sanctifying of water by Vedic mantras can bring about the desired result. In this instance, the Brahmins sanctified the water so that the king's wife might drink it in the yagya. But by providence, the king himself went there at night and being thirsty, drank the water. So, see, by providence. So, everything happens by the will of the Lord. Uthitaste nishamyatha vyudakam kalasham prabhu paprachu kasya karmedam pitam punsvanam jalam. When the Brahmins got up from bed and saw the water pot empty, they inquired who had done this work of drinking the water meant for begetting the child. Ragya pitam viditva ve ishwara prahitin te ishwaraya namaschakrur aho deva balam balam. When the Brahmins came to understand that the king, inspired by the supreme controller, had drunk the water, they all exclaimed, alas, the power of providence is real power. No one can counteract the power of the Supreme. In this way, they offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. Tadaha kalupavritte kupshim nirbidya dakshinam yuvanashvasya tanashyas chakravarti jajanaha. Thereafter, in due course of time, a son with all the good symptoms of a powerful king came forth from the lower right side of King Yuvanashva's abdomen. See, even men can carry, children can carry babies. But obviously, this is an exception. Somehow it happened. Kam dhasyati kumaroyam sanyeroruyate brisham mam dhata vachmarode ritindro deshanim nidat. The baby cried so much for breast milk that all the Brahmins were very unhappy. Who will take care of this baby? They said. Then Indra, who was worshipped in that yagya, came and solaced the baby. Do not cry, Indra said. Then Indra put his index finger in the baby's mouth and said, you may drink me. Namamara pita tasya vipradeva prasadata yuvanashvat tatraiva tapsa siddhim anmagga. Because Yuvanashva, the father of the baby, was blessed by the Brahmins, he did not fall a victim to death. After this incident, he performed severe austerities and achieved perfection in that very spot. Let me just check something. Okay. So I guess we can stop here. Although the chapter hardly has any, maybe later on it has some purpose. So far, there are no purpose. Anyway, we'll take it up later, tomorrow. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.